nuclear weapon. Both sides remain far apart on the diplomatic table. Donald Trump, meanwhile, has kept all the options open. But contrary to what he claims, time might not be on his side. Nearly 240 years ago, remember, the founding fathers of the United States had divided the responsibilities for war in the Constitution between the President, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, but also the Congress, and they had decided that only the Congress can declare war. Under the 1973 War Powers Resolutions of America, an American president can only wage war without congressional approval for 60 days. That deadline expires on the 1st of May. Beyond this, Trump can extend his military deployment for 30 more days, but remember, this is only limited for an orderly withdrawal of troops. Trump could do what former President Barack Obama did during 2011 Libya bombing. Obama had said that the operation did not involve sustained combat and therefore the constitutional limit does not apply. Only the US Congress can declare the war, and the last time it did so was on the 4th of June back in 1942. From Vietnam to Iraq, United States has fought enough wars without any official declaration of war. This leaves the Democrats with one choice: wait it out until the November midterms. Donald Trump's approval ratings are down, and if Trump loses the midterms, Republicans will lose majority in the Congress. This clearly will hand the Democrats the power to restrict Donald Trump's power to engage in a prolonged conflict without congressional approval. All right, with that, let's tell you the breaking input that's coming in. This one's coming from Russia amid questions on the future of this war and the peace negotiations. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has just met with the Russian President Vladimir Putin a short while back. And Putin has conveyed to Abbas Araghchi that he has hopes that the Iranian people will weather this difficult period and that peace will prevail. Take a listen.
For our part, we will do everything that serves your interests, the interests of all the people of the region, so that peace can be achieved as soon as possible.
Now, during these talks, Vladimir Putin asked Araghchi to, quote, convey his best wishes and good health to Iran's supreme leader. He also said that he's got a message from Mojtaba Khamenei. On his part, the Iranian foreign minister told Vladimir Putin that relations between Russia and Iran constitute strategic partnership and that it will continue to strengthen.
It was proven to everyone that Iran has friends and allies, such as Russia, who stand by Iran during difficult times. We thank you for firm position in support of Iran.
All right, let me welcome my guests on the show today. Elijah J. Magnier is joining us. He's a war correspondent and analyst. He's joining us from Brussels at the moment. Elijah, good evening and welcome to WION. Just a short while back, Vladimir Putin met with Abbas Araghchi. And it's interesting how Russia has now really become the central focus of these negotiations as they proceed. But how and why do you think Russia will become part of it? Would it be eyeing the nuclear enrichment, the uranium enrichment and the nuclear dust at all in this for its own benefit?
Thank you for having me. The war between Iran and the United States that took place twice, once in June 2025 and February 2026, during the negotiations, took away and removed completely any trust between both sides. Therefore, even if there is a kind of a ceasefire declared or the end of the war, the Iranians do not feel that they can trust this ceasefire, and they have to be always on alert of another yet war to start again. This is why they need a third party, that can be Russia or China, to be more actively involved, even if there is little to be done if a person like Donald Trump, with his personality, decide to go to war again. Therefore, Russia represents a way, because there is a good relationship between President Trump and President Vladimir Putin, where the 60% enriching uranium can perhaps find a place if Iran agrees on that.
Okay, it's going to be interesting to see how that part of this entire war, proceeds. But talking of Donald Trump, Elijah, he's obviously facing domestic pressure from the Congress lawmakers, particularly the Democrats. Do you think he would care at all before the midterm elections to actually make sure that congressional lawmakers are taken into his side as far as, the declaration of war to the Congress is concerned? Or, as a lot is being speculated, that the Democrats themselves will wait till the midterms, and then when they have perhaps a majority, then they will make their move.
That's a good point you are making. And now the Democrats tried twice and failed to stop Donald Trump in the last 45 days. However, we need to look at the situation a little bit from a different angle. It is true that both sides have reached a deadlock now. However, starting the war for the United States cannot achieve any of the objectives that the US and Israel failed to achieve in the 40 days of war. Therefore, for the Americans to start the war again, to hit what? To destroy the Iranian civilization, that doesn't allow the US to win the war. To destroy the energy plant, the Iranians will destroy the Middle East and the Gulf countries' energy plant, and that will not again achieve the objective of the Americans to disarm Iran or for Iran to deliver its nuclear program. Therefore, it is true that all the analyses lead with the gathering of forces in the Middle East to a potential regaining of the war. Therefore, it is a possibility on the table. However, there are no objectives to be met with the renewal. This is why the 1st of May can be the ladder that Donald Trump can use to come down from that tree where he is stuck and say, okay, well, I'm caught by the Congress limit. I have 60 days and now have only 30 days to call back all the troops.
So interesting. Are you saying, Elijah, then that perhaps 1st of May will be used by Donald Trump to actually make his way out of this war? Can that be a possibility? Because anyway, the United States of America and Donald Trump have been looking for some sort of off-ramp and some sort of, aspect to this war which can become a legitimate reason to get out of this war in a logical and respectful way.
Yes, exactly. You just said it, logical and respectful. We're dealing with two countries and two sides who are very proud, and they're not going to announce the end of the war once before the other. Otherwise, one party will say, I won. We've seen that happening when Donald Trump said, I won after Iran opened the Strait of Hormuz, and then Iran shut it down again after a few hours because of that. So these declarations and this announcement and the pride of each side is extremely important. In diplomacy, in theory, this should not exist. However, it is omnipresent in this war, and that could be a way for the Americans to say, well, I imposed a blockade, I caused Iran a lot of economic suffering, I won the war, and now the Congress wants me to end it. Okay, for this time. That's a way out.
Interesting. Quickly, before I let you go, Elijah, a quick question. With Russia now entering this negotiation, the Iranian foreign minister has already traveled to Pakistan and met with their leadership. But there are, of course, some in Iran who say that Pakistan has not been a neutral mediator. They'd never speak against America. Therefore, how do you see this potential second round of talks, second round of negotiations moving forward? Will there be any face-to-face talks anymore in the near future?
I don't think so, because what both sides need now, a third party that can be any country, only because Oman was hurt because it was pushing forward for a resolution, and the foreign minister said, we have reached a breakthrough, and they were just about to make a deal when the US started the war during the negotiation. This is why, and because of the logistics, Iran is just close to Pakistan. The Iranians were concerned that their plane will be shot down by the Americans. So there are many elements that played, and above all, the Iranians wanted to send a message to the Americans that Asia and the Middle East need to look after their own problems among themselves without a Western intervention. So Pakistan is just a country really, but the bulk of the work is done through the messages between the Iranian Foreign Minister and Steve Witkoff.
All right, I'll leave it there. Elijah J. Magnia, thanks very much for sharing with us your perspective. Pleasure talking to you. Let's see how this really moves forward in the next few days.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, with that, let's also get you an update from Israel. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and the opposition leader Yair Lapid have announced a new political alliance, unveiling the Together Party in a joint appearance in Herzliya. This move is aimed at mounting a strong challenge to the current government, which is led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Take a listen.
I am taking the most Zionist and most patriotic step we have ever taken for the sake of our country. On the first day of the new government under my leadership, we will establish a state commission of inquiry into the October 7th massacre in order to bring truth to the families and answers to the entire people of Israel. We will advance a law of service for everyone and stop funding draft evasion, even by a single shekel. We will limit the term of a prime minister to 8 years, and it will apply first and foremost to me.
Bennett also added that on the 7th of October, the institutional state of Israel, the entire government had collapsed. What saved the country was the people. Meanwhile, Yair Lapid urged centrist voters to unite behind Bennett, portraying him as a law-abiding and credible alternative to the current leadership.
We are here because this country needs unity like air to breathe. We stand here together for everyone who believes in democracy, believes in the deep Jewish foundation of the state, believes in the values of Zionism and in our right to this land. And at this moment, we have expanded our target audience to 80% of the citizens of the State of Israel. Only draft evaders and extremists are not invited. Everyone else is part of the target audience of this alliance.
Bennett and Lapid served as prime ministers in a rotational agreement as part of a coalition government that they had formed in 2021, ending 12 years of Netanyahu's rule. But just after 18 months, the coalition had fractured. The two men have ideological differences. Bennett is an Orthodox Jew with hardline views towards the Palestinians, while Lapid is secular and is seen as more moderate. Campaigning for the West Bengal Assembly elections has now officially ended. The state is headed for a second and the final round of voting on the 29th of April, when the remaining 142 out of the 294 seats go to polls. Political heavyweights made a final push on the last day of campaigning. Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivered a final campaign message where he said Anga, Banga and Kalinga should be strengthened. These names historically refer to the provinces of Bihar, West Bengal and Odisha. Remember, two of these states are currently under the rule of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
और यहाँ जो माहौल मैं देख रहा हूं, इस बार बंगाल में भी कमल खिलना तय है। अंग, बंग और कलिंग, इस त्रिशक्ति का भरोसा बीजेपी पर है।
Meanwhile, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee said that no malicious force can stop the momentum of development that has touched every corner of West Bengal. Trinamool Congress's National Secretary Abhishek Banerjee addressed a rally in Thanekali today. Mamata Banerjee, remember, is seeking a fourth consecutive term this time around. She will be on the ballot during the second phase. She is contesting from the Bhabanipur seat, where she carried out a march to make the final appeal to voters today. Now, if we go back to the 2021 Assembly polls, remember TMC had secured 123 seats out of all the seats going to polls in the second phase this time. Mamata Banerjee's comeback to power depends on how many of these seats her party can retain. Security arrangements, meanwhile, are being made across all polling booths. The police have carried out a flag march in Purb Bardhaman. Security personnel interacted with voters ahead of the polls. A record number of central forces have been deployed across West Bengal to ensure the safe conduct of elections. But despite this, skirmishes have been reported during the first round of the votes. Results for the West Bengal elections will be declared on the 4th of May. Remember, the BJP is trying to flip the balance of power, while Mamata Banerjee is banking on her 15-year track record as the Chief Minister of the state. The high-octane political campaigning has now ended, but clearly West Bengal's race to power remains wide open. Right, moving on, India and New Zealand have signed a landmark free trade agreement, or FTA, that is aimed at boosting bilateral trade, investment and people-to-people ties. This deal is seen as a strategic move to diversify trade partnerships and strengthen economic engagement in the Indo-Pacific region.
We stand here to write a new chapter, one that our farmers, youth, innovators and industries will read for decades. Launched on 16th March last year, the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement has been concluded in a record 9 months, a pace that reflects the depth of trust, commitment and shared ambition between our two nations.
The agreement eliminates or at least significantly reduces tariffs on a wide range of goods, opening new opportunities for exporters on both sides. For India, remember, the big gains come in services and manufacturing. The proposed pact is expected to grant 100% duty-free access to 8,284 Indian export items. Indian tech, pharmaceuticals, textiles and engineering goods will all get better access to New Zealand with these reduced or even zero tariffs, clearly boosting export competitiveness. In fact, Indian generic medicines and machinery are also expected to become more affordable in the New Zealand market. Meanwhile, for New Zealand, what does it mean? Well, the focus has been on agriculture. Dairy products, meat and other farm exports will enter India at lower duties, making them more competitive. And this could clearly translate into cheaper imported dairy and food products for Indian consumers over a period of time.
In a generation agreement delivers opportunities that New Zealand exporters have never had in India. It will deliver thousands of jobs and unleash huge potential for our world-class exporters. Not only will it enhance established business relationships, it will accelerate the development of new partnerships to significantly boost economic engagement and bringing benefits to both of our countries.
Several protesters gathered outside the Buckingham Palace earlier in the day to oppose the monarch's upcoming America visit. Protesters came dressed as UK's King Charles and the US President Donald Trump, carrying signage that looks like a missile. The demonstrators have opposed King Charles's visit, accusing UK royals and the administration of being complicit in the Iran war, which has triggered a cost of living crisis world over.
The British people do not want this state visit to go ahead. We should not be sending the King to wine and dine at a state banquet with Donald Trump when he is driving a cost of living crisis as a result of his war in Iran. And crucially, the UK government are allowing the US military to use our air bases to load up with bombs, take off and conduct strikes. That makes us complicit. And so sending the King right now sends a signal that we're actually okay with whatever Donald Trump is doing on the world stage.
However, UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that he will not let the country be dragged into a war which is not in UK's interests. These comments come weeks after the UK allowed American forces to use military bases in Britain to carry out strikes on Iranian soil. A high-stakes legal battle between Elon Musk and OpenAI is now heading into trial today, with the jury selection underway in California to decide whether Musk was misled over the company's founding mission. Remember, this case centers on claims that OpenAI had shifted from a non-profit model to a for-profit structure. The trial, taking place in Oakland, California, pits the world's richest man against a company that he once helped build. Elon Musk has accused OpenAI of betraying its original non-profit mission, claiming that he was misled about its goals when he invested around $38 million in its early days. Court documents show that Sam Altman had promised to keep the organization focused on public benefit, but the company later shifted to a hybrid model with a for-profit arm. Microsoft as a major backer and is preparing for a public listing. This legal dispute also highlights a broader rivalry as OpenAI's ChatGPT competes directly with Musk's AI venture xAI. Elon Musk is seeking up to $134 billion in damages, and he's asked the court to force OpenAI back into a full non-profit structure and cut its ties with Microsoft. The case may also see testimony from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. However, OpenAI has rejected these claims, arguing that Musk's lawsuit is driven by competition and a desire for control. With the jury now being selected today, a verdict is expected by late May, which could have major implications for the future structure, governance, and direction of the global AI industry. And our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York with more details. Take a look.
Elon Musk and Sam Altman are heading into one of Silicon Valley's biggest courtroom battles, and the stakes go far beyond personal rivalry. Jury selection is expected to begin in Oakland as Elon Musk accuses Sam Altman and OpenAI of betraying the company's initial 2015 mission, which was being a nonprofit serving humanity. But Altman says that OpenAI's shift was necessary to deal with the challenges of the times. Altman also argues that the changes were necessary to be competitive in the AI race. Regarding of what happens, ultimately, it is a very important case because whichever way this goes could possibly shape and determine who controls the future of artificial intelligence. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. As always, we will keep getting you analysis from across the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
Elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. 5 states, 1 powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. From Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Get the election pulse only on WION. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter. Because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in